Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our new guest, Lisa from skullpixl Games. We're here to break down her awesome indie game. And man, I had the chance to play it, and it was phenomenal. Hellworld. It is a 2D platforming game where you possess different creations, and it helps you kind of get through puzzles and different obstacles. The demo was about, I want to say 20. My experience was about 20 minutes long the first time, the second time through. The first time maybe about 30. But right here is the link, guys. Be sure to check this out. You could wishlist it today and play that demo for free. Lisa, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today?
I am so good. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. So, real quick, when you were working on this game, like, what type of influences in media were you consuming? This is rarely a question I get to ask, so I really wanted to utilize it and kind of start off the interview with that. So, like, when you first started creating this, like, what was the media you were consuming at the point?
So this is more or less a love letter to a lot of my childhood favorite games and media and things like that. So it wasn't so much like what I was consuming at the time. It was more of like things I was thinking about from my past. And so I played a lot of Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Kirby is another big one. The Oddworld games, if you've ever played those are great.
Yeah.
I'm a child of the 90s. I loved Ren and Stimpy. I loved Earthworm Jim. So those are all it's just a conglomeration of all of those things.
No, that is awesome. I felt a lot of those like kind of old school like Flash games too, like when the characters would talk to you, like from the old school like RPG-ish type games. So this is your first game that you've ever created, right?
Yep.
So give us a little introduction to who you are and how you got into creating indie games.
So games have been a big part of my life, kind of always, and I never really thought and I always had ideas. Like I'd always reach out to my friends and be like, oh my god, I have the greatest idea for a game. It would be this and this and this. And then the next day like, oh my god, I have another idea for a game. And then it never actually occurred to me that I could make those games a reality until like it was like 2015 when I first started conceptualizing Hellworld. And it was just a friend of mine had come over to stay the night, and we were just up until 2:00 in the morning, just be like, okay, what about a game that it's the 7 deadly sins, but it's different. Okay, well, what would the 8th deadly sin be? It would be despair. And it's when you're despair, you want to melt into a puddle and this and that and the other. And we were just sketching and laughing and coming up with all of these concepts. And then I was like, I'm just gonna make this game. Let's just make it happen.
I really like how you took like the 7 deadly sins and then added an 8th one, and despair seems like a really fitting one as well. We have a Pancake remix saying, yeah, let's go Skull, throwing a heart in chat as well over on YouTube. Thank you for joining us, Pancake. So how did you teach yourself how to do this, being the only dev involved? Like, what did that look like for you, like your first steps into like learning how to do it?
So I'm an artist first and foremost. The game dev came later. Like I've been drawing forever, and I guess game dev came when I went back to college when I was 25, and I majored in computer science, and it's just having that background with it. I was just like, okay, I could do this. Shouldn't be that hard. And learning about other indie games that use engines like Unity and Game Maker and ClickTeam Fusion, and the one that I use is Construct 3, which makes HTML5 games. So that's what it is. But yeah, it just didn't really come to me until then that I was like, oh, I could make a video game. Let's do it.
So what was your early experiences using that engine like?
So I actually didn't start Hellworld with Construct 3. I started it with ClickTeam. And I had been using ClickTeam forever and ever, or not forever and ever, but honestly about 6 months into the game, I was like, this isn't going to do exactly what I want it to do. And so I was kind of experimenting with other engines. And a friend of mine had recommended Construct 3. They're like, oh, I'm having a lot of fun just making little games with it. And so I was like, give it a try. But yeah, I mean, it's specifically made that they just recently started delving into like 3D and stuff like that. But it's 90% like a 2D game kind of maker. Like it's a lot. People use it for mobile games more than they use it for anything else. But I don't know. I saw a game dev that I used to follow, and I don't remember their name or the game that they were. Oh, I remember now. Sorry, it took me a second. It's and I lost it. No, guinea pig parkour was what it's called, and they were using Construct 3, and they had these like beautiful fluid animations, and it really looked like they could do a lot with that engine. And so I was kind of like, I remember my friend, telling me about this engine, so I may as well give it a shot. And it's really easy to learn. It's very JavaScript like. I guess the visual coding element of it is very like a lot like JavaScript, and so that felt familiar to me. But I've been enjoying using it a lot.
So what goes into taking, the art that you create and coding it to work in a game? Like, what does that process look like? I never really had a chance to kind of dive into that. It seems like it would be a pretty hard like thing to transverse within.
Sorry, my headphones died. 1 second. We good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, my headphones decided to die. But what was your question again?
Oh, no, yeah, not a problem. Real quick, we have Rose Whiplash 619 saying, "Whoa, is that the skullpixl? Their work is awesome. Love the game demo work so far." So a lot of hype in chat. Well, let me re-ask a different question then. With the idea in hand to have like the 7 deadly sins and then the 8 that's despair, what was your reasoning for going with a 2D platform over any other game kind of genre out there? What was the focus for a platformer?
Just nostalgia. It's my favorite. It's my favorite genre, honestly. Like all of my favorite games are 2D platforming games, things like that. So just strictly the love for it and the nostalgia.
We have the Retro Anarchist joining us saying it is indeed the skullpixl. Thank you for joining us, Retro. Always appreciate it. So I'll re-ask my question now. What goes into taking the art that you created for this and then coding it to work within a game? I've never really had a chance to kind of dive into that before. So I'm curious, what does that process look like?
So that's going to be different depending on the person you ask. I don't really have a process. I just kind of do whatever comes to mind. Like it could just, a lot of the times it starts with me sketching a level out and kind of putting ideas onto paper. Other times it's me in the engine with, a sprite in another window, just making something and going, hamburger restaurant. There it is. All right, let's do the whole level based around that. So it's kind of a crapshoot, honestly.
We're at one of the parts we just passed where we were at the tavern talking to the 4 horsemen. I loved how they're actually horse too. I thought that was a really awesome nod to it. What other like personalities of like Hell or that type of like landscape are we going to see within this?
So you saw Seth, one of Seth's siblings. And you watched the whole opening sequence that was drawn by my husband, who is sitting behind me.
Awesome work, by the way. Yeah,
he drew that whole moving comic book situation, and so that kind of breaks the story down. So you've met Seth's mom, you've met Lucifer himself, you've met Charon, the bus driver, and her monster bus sticks. And you met those characters. You've met one of his siblings, Belphegor. So kind of going off of the 7 deadly sins thing. So the next level that I have planned, or that like you don't really have to go in order, like visiting the different places, but the next one that I always in my head is level number 2 is a junk food theme park. So it's going to be like, it's the gluttony level.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so in her, that's ruled by Beelzebub, and she's like a bratty, no impulse control, just eats everything kind of kid. And like her whole thing, it's a junk food theme park. It's covered in bugs and mosquitoes and stuff like that. It's just gross. There's the Ren and Stimpy influences. I just love gross out humor and stuff like that. And then there's like Mammon is the greed one, and he's the one who's lives in a sewer, and he loves hoarding things because he's greedy, and the rest of them I'll leave them up to surprise. I don't want to spoil the whole thing.
Yeah, and by the way, for everyone that is in chat, you are able to wishlist this right now over on Steam, so please go over there. It's 100% free to do that. We have Sierra Shepherd joining us over on YouTube, throwing a yay with a heart. Lisa, what is the importance of wishlisting a game? Like, what does that do for you as a, indie game developer for Steam?
Yeah, specifically on Steam, it helps with visibility. It helps people kind of see, how when you're on Steam and you're looking at games and it gives you your recommended, if you like this game, you like this game, or, things like that. It kind of helps your visibility in that way. The algorithm says, oh, a lot of people want to see this game made. A lot of people want to buy this game. We need to start recommending this to other people as well who have similar tastes. And so it kind of bumps our visibility up the more you wishlist a game. And wishlisting is totally free. You can just click a button.
So click a button, and even go a step further, share this link on Facebook or Twitter, anywhere you can. Spreading it is 100% free too, and a retweet can go a long way. We have Carly Matson saying, ugh, I can't believe Skull is the fucking god at their job. So got a lot of love and hype in the game, or in the chat, excuse me. And then Pancake already wishlisted. Can't wait for the game to release. Let's get to it, 666. So a lot of hype as well. So we see a lot of awesome features introduced within the demo. Jump is the basic one, but the possession is such a cool feature where you can kind of possess whoever's on the field and utilize their ability. What was your inspiration for that? I really enjoyed that concept a lot.
That's where you see a lot of my inspiration come from. Kirby and Oddworld and things like that, where you're like, you have to use other, like your base character is fairly useless on their own, so they have to rely on the abilities of other enemies to kind of make their way through a level or whatever. I always thought that was such a cool mechanic in the Oddworld series, specifically where your character Abe could, possess enemies and sneak around the grounds and things like that. So those were definitely my biggest inspirations for that. The other, what kind of sparked that was, so my older brother Chris, he's a genius. I'm just putting it out there. Especially when it comes to just coming up with ideas on the fly. So I kind of defer to him a lot whenever I'm conceptualizing things, or I'm having trouble conceptualizing something. I'll be like, all right, I'm working on a junk food theme park. What are some characters or enemies or obstacles that what you would see in this kind of level? And he'd be like, oh, a dude who drank too much Slurpee, and you can jump on his belly and a stream of barf will come out. You can jump on the platform, and it's like, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's totally off the dome stuff. And so he and I were in the car one time, and this is when I was still kind of talking about the idea, and I was like, okay, well, I want this non-traditional representation of the 7 deadly sins and this and that. And what else? Where can I go from there? And he suggested, well, the 8th deadly sin would be despair. So whenever I feel despair, I just want to melt into a puddle. And I was like, and he's like, and you can fill other people, when you're really down in it, you kind of fill other people around you with it as well. And so I was like, okay, we're coming up with an idea here. And so that's kind of where that ink turn into a little ink puddle and then slide into your enemies and possess them.
But that's not all. We also later on in the demo get the ability to get a cape that kind of gave me some Super Mario vibes, I might be mistaken on that.
No, not mistaken. That is definitely an inspiration, specifically the ground pounding part of it. I knew I wanted some kind of ground pound, and I guess that was the idea. It's like, oh, you get a blanket cape because it's you're in the sleepy land, and so everything's sheep and sleepy and everything like that. And so it's like, oh, you get a blanket cape. So the blanket cape helps you do this ground pound, and so I have ideas for each of the levels, what each individual power up would look like. So you have the blanket cape for Lake Somnia, and then in Greaseland you get a cotton candy gun, and so I want
that's cool
each of the levels to kind of have their own gimmick.
Yeah, and I thought it was awesome too how once you got that, it actually changed the appearance of your character. So your character had that, and where a lot of games will kind of just bring it out when you use it. Is that going to be the same for all the other items that you pick up along your travels?
Nope. it's going to be, those power-ups are specific to those levels.
Okay. No, that is so cool. And then the cape, you know, you later on use it within the boss fight, which I liked a lot. So this is not only a 2D platformer, also a puzzle game too. So you have to figure out how to beat the boss and, you know, go about doing it. And I really liked how the boss was structured. Can we expect more boss fights of that nature? And like, what type of, you know, puzzles can we, you know, are maybe something you can touch base upon without spoiling too much?
Oh yeah. So I have always been a big fan of room filling bosses, you know, just like you're just a little guy and the whole boss just takes up the entire stage. And that has just been my favorite forever. And so I wanted that to be the basis for each of the bosses. And so each of the bosses is going to be this huge room filling, like demonic versions of themselves. You know, you saw Belphegor in her long white hair and her little lingerie and everything. And that's just what she looks like normally. And then her boss form, you know, is this huge kind of demonic version. And so I have that in place for each of the bosses.
So, you know, with us diving deep into this game, it's releasing soon, right? You're right around the corner from the release date. Can you give us a little bit of what to expect when that hits?
I'm a little nervous about it, but we have a release date in July of this year. I am working little bits every single day to get this out there, to get it, you know, ready. I am bug fixing every single day and putting new things in every single day. So I am working on this by myself every single day. So hopefully, everybody knock on wood, everything will be, you know, ready to go in July for when it comes out. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I'm doing I'm demoing the game at a convention down in Austin in July as well. And so I'm hoping, kind of like as it coincides with the release date, I want to give out, I want to do raffles. I want to have, you know, Steam keys that I can give out.
So cool.
So to kind of promote the game and things like that.
We have Josh Knight the first saying, I definitely have this wish listed, and Sierra saying happy birthday month to me. Hey, happy birthday month to you, Sierra. Thank you for swinging by. So, you know, go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking of Josh, that's the voice of Lucifer.
Yeah, I was about to ask, you know, being the solo dev on this, you have to wear a lot of different hats. What does that look like for you? You know, going from not only creating the art to programming, but, you know, getting the voice acting and the OST created.
So I always say, oh, I'm a solo dev, but that's only like kind of true, because I'm not the only one with my hands in pie. Like, I do about 99% of the art and all of the coding myself, you know, and then I have my husband who helps me out. I have another friend who's going to help me out with some art assets. And I have reached out to people. Like I had to start, like, I recently had a kidney transplant, and so I've kind of been out of, you know, commission for a little while. And before my transplant, I was on dialysis. And so while I was on dialysis, I was like, I can't really do a lot of this work by myself. And so I had outsourced a few things, like some background assets from another person. And now, while I'm, you know, still recovering from surgery, I'm outsourcing some animation help and things like that. So I'm not the only one working on it.
I mean, holy crap. Remarkable that you like pushed through that to work on this game. Even if you had to outsource any of it, the fact that you kept focused on it, that's like outstanding.
It's my baby. But yeah, being my own casting director was so much fun. Getting able to connect and meet with and talk to different voice actors that and it was incredible, the response, because all I had to do was put out a casting call on Twitter and they just like came in droves. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You cannot, like, this isn't gonna be easy at all. And it wasn't. Like, there's so much talent in like the Twitter voiceover community. It's insane. And I had just audition after audition after audition for these characters, and like getting to match the voice to the character was it was a dream. It was so much fun. So that's where like all of my budget has gone is to having really good voice actors. And because that's always been really important to me too, is like a fully voiced game just gives each of these characters a little bit more personality, and you can connect with them a little bit better.
Yeah, that's that whole different level of immersion to it when you know you're reading the text, you know, having that voice, you know, giving you that personality with that voice.
Yeah,
that is awesome. So Can we talk about a price point? What type of price are you looking at for this game the day of launch?
I'm thinking day of launch. Okay, so I'm pretty set. I think I'm pretty set. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm pretty set on the $14.99 price point, but I want to do a release discount. So when you first buy it, and it's, you know, in its infancy, when you buy it, it'll only be $10.
Yeah, not bad at all. And any sort of like major update or DLC planned for it, or anything of that nature?
That's a maybe. It kind of depends on how things go with the base game. Because I have some ideas for upgrades to your character and different like cosmetic things that you can do with your character, like buying sweaters from Death and kind of changing your look, or like different sweaters do different things. Like this one gives you a little bit more health or longer possession time, or, you know, this and that and the other, or it's just a rainbow sweater. But I have these ideas in mind that I'm not sure are going to make it into the base game by July. And so if that's the case, then there will be like a free paid DLC, and it's all, you know, the Four Horsemen, like the Four Horsemen DLC. So
I was about to ask about Grandma Death, because I didn't have the chance. You know, we collected some coins. I didn't get the chance to spend them though. So I was wondering, you know, what that interaction looks like. Yeah, and she's such an awesome character in herself. I love it. She's like, you don't got any money, like come back when you do.
Yeah, that's Granny Death. She's absolutely one of my favorite characters from this whole thing, and her voice actress Rowan Gilvey just killed it. Like absolutely gave me the perfect little grandma voice I was looking for.
So everyone that is watching, right here is the link to wishlist this right now. You have just a couple months until this drops. It's right around the corner. So with that being said, you know, for anyone who might be on the fence about buying this project, you know, when the day it drops, what would be the one thing you would say to them to kind of help push them over that fence?
Do it. No. No, I'm kidding. No, I just think it's really important to support indie creators, especially, you know, people like me who are, you know, working. This is our baby. We're one person, and this is our creation. And so solo devs like need the support. Indie creators need the support. Like, and it's going to be a fun game, and I really like it. You know, I like it, the creator, and that's really hard for me to say.
And when you like it, you know, you have passion for it. You put so much work and love into it, and I think it really shown. I had a blast playing the demo. I can't wait to see what the rest of it looks like. I love the little postcard, you know, travel system. I think that was such a unique way to go about it. So with that being, we have J. Michael Miller, my good friend from the comic book side of things, dropping in to say it looks like a good character variety. Yeah, with the different sins. Yeah, I think it's gonna be so cool. So with that being said, what's 2023 looking like for you? You know, outside of this game, is this the main focus for you for the year, or is there any other projects that you kind of want to dive into if you ever get a chance?
So I really want to work with my brother, Chris, who I was talking about earlier. I really want to work with him on a game idea that's like his idea, because he's so good at coming up with ideas. And so he has had an idea for a game that I want to work with him on. And so I think that once Hellworld has released and is done, and, you know, if there's DLC, that's all done, and I don't have to think about it anymore, then I kind of want to move on to this other project with my brother. But other than that, I've got a couple of conventions that I'm going to try and go to demo the convention, or demo the game. Like Classic Games Fest, I mentioned earlier, was the one down in Austin. So that's coming up in July. Retropalooza is another one that I usually like to go to in Arlington, Texas. That's usually in October. I do a lot of local Dallas, Fort Worth conventions. So if you're in the DFW area and there's a gaming convention, I'm probably going to be there.
And yeah, for everyone watching one last time, we have a really good turnout tonight. I really appreciate everyone that stopped. And right there is the link. Be sure to wishlist if you haven't. Putting that wherever you can is also greatly appreciated. And if you are an indie game developer, please reach out. I'd love to get you on the show, play the game. You know, this is my actual game footage we are watching on the screen. So let's make it happen. Lisa, before I let you go, I always love asking for a little bit of advice. So for anyone out there who is looking to get into creating indie games, or maybe they're already kind of in there but struggling to kind of just get going, what would be your biggest piece, you know, of advice if you could go back to yourself even and just offer yourself one piece of advice? What would you offer?
Just pick an engine and learn it. And there's, I mean, you can get on YouTube tutorials for absolutely everything, which has been, you know, a saving grace in the beginning stages of learning Construct, was going through their forums and going through YouTube tutorials and things like that and learning how to use it. But yeah, just, you know, if you have a solid idea and you want to make something out of it, like, just do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, think of what you want to do, what you want that to look like, and start researching, you know, engines and art programs and things like that. And, you know, is this something you want to do solo? Is this something that you want to work with somebody on? Like, you really have to think about everything. But the most important thing, of course, is just do your research first.
No, absolutely. And I think understanding what you're working with is key, because then you understand, you know, the ins and outs of it. You know, when I first started editing, I really didn't know Adobe Premiere. It took me a long time to realize if I hit like Control S, that's auto saves for me, and that saves time. I mean, like, it took that much time for me to realize, but once I learned, it made that process way quicker. And then, you know, I'm learning, you know, the shortcuts, but it's the trials and tribulations that like help you kind of do those stepping stones to kind of just knocking it out the park.
Yeah, I use Adobe products for my day job, and I feel like every single day I'm learning. Somebody's coming by and be like, "Oh, did you know that Illustrator can do this?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't."
And it's a game changer when you find it out, and it's all about like kind of just learning, you know, what shortcuts are available and just how to use them effectively. So awesome advice, Lisa. Thank you so much for swinging by and for the opportunity to play this game. Everyone watching, I hope you all have an awesome Thursday night, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.